Hello.
Hello, this is I'm with the Kansas State Board of Nursing.
Hi.
Is this Elaine?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Elaine, for giving me some of your time this morning. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
I did want to let you know that I have another investigator here with me.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
And her name is.
Okay.
Okay. So I have some questions to run through with you.
Sure.
And if you have any questions for me along the way, just let me know.
Okay.
Okay. I'd also like to tell I am an investigator and I get these reports from the director and my supervisor. They review them first. And there were probably at least three reports made to us about your social media posting. So that's what it'll be about. Now, I don't judge. I don't discipline. All I do is gather information. And it goes to our investigative committee. And then they're the ones that make any of those decisions. And they will be meeting on December the 9th. And after that meeting, it'll probably be a week after that. It might be up to a week after that before I get their decisions on if there's any disciplinary actions. And then I will send you out a letter. And it's either going to say, it's going to be one of two letters. It'll either say there was no action taken, or it will say that it was forwarded to the attorney in our office. And the reason it's forwarded to our attorney is that there's some disciplinary action that the board is recommending, but it goes to the attorney and she determines if it's appropriate or not. So she can change that.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me?
I'm being investigated for my social media, not my patient care, not from an employer, or anything like that.
That is correct.
What statute exactly is social media under?
It's under the Kansas Nurse Practice Act, and there's two, 60-3-10M and 60-3-110Q. So if you want to look those up and review those, you're very welcome to do so.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I'll get started here. Do you work for?
I do.
And how long have you worked for?
Since 2018.
Where do you currently work?
I work also at.
Is that in?
Yes.
How long have you been there?
I just started a few months ago.
I'm going to be writing, so if there's a
That's
quiet
fine.
moment. Is that an assignment through or are you employed by?
I'm employed by.
Are you full-time?
Yes.
And what area at do you work in?
I work in the med-surg floor.
So you still also work for?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you do for them?
I work as an agency nurse. They send me all over the metro area, both in Kansas and Missouri, because I have a compact license, working in all kinds of disciplines, school nursing, LTACs, SNFs, assisted livings, some hospital assignments.
Okay. Are those like short-term?
Yeah, they're the hospital assignments are 13 weeks usually, with a possibility to extend, and then the other ones can be contracted monthly or just on an as needed basis.
Okay. Why did you become a nurse?
I wanted to help people. I My first experience was when I was a child and I was sexually assaulted, and I went through the experience of having somebody there with me guide me through it and make sure that I was okay, even though my parents weren't great about it, and I didn't feel safe with them. At least in that experience with the nurses, I felt safe.
Have you ever been disciplined during your time of employment
No.
with any facility?
I mean, I've had talking tos about the way I come across because I'm a very direct person, but nothing in the context of my practice with my patients.
Have you ever been terminated from a position?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
I was employed at emergency room. They did not give me any of the training that they gave anybody else in the beginning, and then told me I was uneducatable and fired me after I was out for 6 weeks with COVID and COVID pneumonia because I refused to get the COVID shot because I had almost died.
Do any of your current employers have policies or procedures regarding the use of social media?
No. Was actually doxxed on the internet and harassed by people on the internet, and they contacted me about it and told me that as long as I'm not implicating them in anything, that I have my First Amendment right. So they can't discipline me for what I put on the internet as long as I'm not mentioning them, which I had not.
Do you understand social media policies and what you should and shouldn't post online as a nurse?
I don't understand the question.
Well, like ANA has social media principles that they've posted, and a lot of I would say all of the hospitals have social media policies. So I was just wondering if you'd ever read them or understand them.
The majority of the time, outside of specific things where I use my nursing knowledge, I do not indicate that I am a nurse. My username may say that, but I don't say with the authority of a nurse, blah, 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 blah.
Some of your social media posts that have been reported, you do introduce yourself as this is your favorite campus nurse.
Okay, that's the tag I use on some of my videos, yes, because my username is Elaine Gebhardt.
What social media networks do you use?
All of them. But I haven't been using them in the last, I think, 4 months or more.
Let's see, you've got Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Are there others?
Spotify, Rumble, and Instagram. And a Truth Social. But I don't post on there as much.
Do you use social media professionally?
I mean, I don't get paid for it outside of a little bit of money that I made after getting doxxed on X. But no, I don't get paid for it. I don't get sponsorship or anything like that, no.
Do you engage in social media with respectful content that's not harmful, disparaging, racist, homophobic, or derogatory?
I don't think I do, no. I don't use social media to harm any population at all.
What do you want to achieve with social media?
I want to bring awareness to people, especially in situations where they may not have the information. I also want to bring light to injustices that are out there that people don't know about. I want to bring light to biases people may have based on race or on somebody's status now without knowing their actual story. I walk into a patient's room every single day and I don't know their story. I can't judge them. But every day, everyone judges everybody else based on the way they see them. And I can't stand for that, because what it's going to do is ultimately going to cause harm for everybody in the world.
How do you personally understand the use of social media by healthcare providers?
I'm not on there as a healthcare provider. I'm not giving medical advice to people. I clarify things when people are uneducated about it, especially about what powers nurses have, because people seem to think that nurses are infallible and they have all this power when really we don't.
How do you understand, how should healthcare providers use social media?
If they're using it in the context of their profession within their scope. But just because I'm a healthcare provider doesn't mean I don't have a right to a First Amendment right.
Do you view your social media posts as inappropriate or disrespectful to the nursing profession?
No.
Do you view your social media posts as harassment, defamation, or discriminatory to any minority group?
No.
What do you feel are the obligations of healthcare providers in the use of social media?
Again, if they are using it in their own scope and in their own practice as a healthcare professional, they need to stay within their scope. But if they are just a person out there who just happens to have that title or anything and not using that authority, they have a First Amendment right.
Do you feel you're spreading any misinformation with your social media posts?
Can you give me a specific example?
Immunizations, possibly, standard of care.
I don't think there's any misinformation in my immunization stance. And my standard of care for every patient is exactly the same. And I've been very, very transparent about that. Especially in the case of knowledge on whether or not my patient has assaulted anybody and my own bias with that. Showing that nurses have to overcome their own struggles, or they have to relinquish the care of their patient to somebody who's better capable of taking care of that patient.
How do you ensure your social media interactions comply with HIPAA regulations?
I don't talk about patients' names or anything. It's a vague answer, and I don't give any specific details about it. I don't talk about age. I don't talk about sex. I don't talk about ethnicity. I don't even talk about where I took care of them.
Do you treat all of your patients with the same care?
Yes. And the fact that this isn't about patient care shows that. Because if I was discriminatory towards a patient, you guys would have gotten patient complaints. Not only from my patients, but from my employers. When my job got doxxed, would have called you. When I worked at any of the hospitals that I worked at under contract, you guys would have been notified had my patients had any problems with the way I treated them. I've been a nurse for almost 5 years. My views have not changed.
Do you have any personal problems or physical problems that affect your nursing practice?
No.
How do you feel about nursing standards of care?
Can you explain the question?
Well, nursing has standards of care. How do you feel about those?
When I'm giving patient care, I follow the standards of care. Every patient gets the same amount of respect. Every patient gets the same standard of care and the same treatment. They are given compassion and empathy. Their needs are met. I go out of my way to make sure my patients have their needs met. And if they have a concern or if they feel like they need to talk to somebody, I'm more than willing to sit with them and discuss things with them. Help them try and work through something even before we go to a pharmacological measure.
How do you feel about COVID immunization?
In my professional standard or in my personal standard? Because there are two different things to that.
Both.
In my professional standard, if my patient wants it, my patient gets it. In my personal standard, I do not agree with them. And I did not agree with the tactics during COVID that were forcing people, especially people who have reasons to question it, especially people like myself who almost died from a unknown thyroid condition, being forced to get it or not working, being ostracized from my own profession, despite doing everything I can and working overtime and more to make sure that I was there for patients who were scared and alone and had no one in, couldn't have visitors or anything in the hospital. And yet I was tossed aside like a dirty rag because after almost dying, I was 28 years old and almost died of COVID pneumonia and told that I immediately had to get a shot. Well, I had patients coming into the emergency room saying, I got this shot and I've been having these symptoms since. And fearing for them and fearing for myself while the government was against me. And now I'm sitting here in an interrogation because I questioned it. Nurses have been questioning science for all of our practice, and that's how we became better at understanding standards of care. That's how we became better at understanding how to treat patients, how to give them the best care. We don't blindly follow because somebody said so.
Have you ever refused to treat a patient because of their religious or medical beliefs that might differ from yours?
No, the only time I have refused or asked a nurse to take over my patient is when they told me, or when somebody else has told me that they had sexually assaulted somebody. And because I'm a victim of that and I know I have a bias, I relinquish that patient to somebody who can take better care of them. That is the only time I do that. If I don't know what their status is, if they're a prisoner and they come in and I don't know why, we're gravy. I take care of them just like I take care of anybody else. But because of my own personal bias, I know I cannot guarantee it, especially if they have sexually assaulted a child. So I give them to another nurse, and I still do my best to try and be impartial if I have to intervene.
Have you ever discriminated against someone's sexual orientation, race, or religion while fulfilling your nursing duty?
No. And if I had, you guys would be calling me in for that instead of my social media, because it would have been reported to you way before this.
How do you feel about the LGBTQ population and treating them?
Well, I'm a bisexual woman, so I don't feel any different than towards myself. Your sexual orientation doesn't have anything to do with the way I take care of you.
Do you treat sexually abusive patients without judgment or discrimination?
Sexually abused patients,
Sexually abusive.
I give them to another nurse because I cannot guarantee my bias will not interfere with my care.
Do you see yourself as participating in cyberbullying?
No. I was cyberbullied. My job was doxxed. My house was doxxed. People questioned and wanted to find out where my kids went to school so that they could cause them harm. I am the victim of being cyberbullied. I got a death threat phone call. I had to call the police because I was scared. I was the one cyberbullied.
Why did you get death threat phone calls?
Because of my opinions on the internet. They called me and they said, "You better watch out. We're going to come get you." After my job was doxxed. And then shortly after, my apartment was my house was doxxed. Luckily, I was able to get that off the internet. And then the same people who I guarantee are the ones who reported this to you also called into question whether or not they could find my children's school and harass them at school.
But who was doing that?
A bunch of people on the internet. Just because they didn't agree with what I said. The same people that reported this to you because they gloated about it on the internet. Oh, I'm going to report her so she can lose her license. I'm going to report her so she can lose her job. I'm being cyberbullied. I'm being harassed and threatened and scared.
When you say your job was doxxed or your home was doxxed, what do you mean by that?
They put my job, they put and the contact information on the internet and encouraged people to call and harass them so I would be fired. They put my house, not only my address, but a picture of my house on the internet, encouraging people to harass me and threats of violence towards me. The same people who are gloating on the internet still to this day that they're going to get my license taken away. The same people that reported to the nursing board over and over and over again. Not because my patient care is awful, not because my patients are scared of me, not because I discriminate towards anybody, but because they disagree with my right to freedom of speech.
Can you tell me about the group Gays Against Groomers and
Yes.
what your involvement is with them?
They are an organization of LGBT and T individuals who are against the indoctrination, mutilation, sterilization, and grooming of children to be trans. And also anything else that has to do with demonizing LGBT people in classrooms and at Pride.
And what is your involvement with that group?
During the time that I was being doxxed, I was a Kansas chapter leader. Now I am just a member, and I am proud to be so. Is the Kansas
practitioner program?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm being investigated because I'm part of Gays Against Groomers?
No, not because of that.
What does that have to do with this investigation then?
It's just a question, but
Well, I'm trying to figure out the relevance of the question because we were talking about my nursing profession. When I'm with Gays Against Groomers, I'm not explicitly not talking as a nurse. I'm just talking out as a bisexual woman. So what does that have to do with my nursing profession?
Well, it was included, that information was included in one of the complaints.
And again, I'm trying to figure out the relevance it has to do with the investigation against my Kansas nursing license.
I have to investigate all complaints that come in. So that was just part of the complaint. So it's a question that I needed to ask.
It's not relevant, though.
Okay. And I will document that you don't feel that it's relevant.
It's really not.
Back to, are you in a nurse practitioner program?
Yes.
And where's that at?
I'm at her.
What university? Where's that located? And when do you plan to graduate from that program?
If I can get my clinicals all set up, next December.
December of 25?
Yes.
And what kind of nurse practitioner program is it?
Family nurse practitioner.
Is there anything you would like to add or any other questions you might have?
I don't understand the whole point of this and trying to paint this as I'm being discriminatory against populations when the complaints weren't from my employers or my patients. And I'm still just trying to understand what this whole thing is, because Gays Against Groomers has nothing to do with my nursing practice. I don't go to work spouting to my patients about Gays Against Groomers. And I still don't understand why that was even relevant in this.
We take complaints from employers and patients, families of patients, the public.
From in my specific case, you got complaints from all of those.
No, it was from the public.
Yeah.
And it was multiple complaints.
Yeah, I know. They harassed me daily. They doxed me daily. To the point that I was getting threatening messages on my phone. And yet I'm being sat here and I'm being victim blamed when I'm being bullied into silence.
I'm not trying to bully you.
No, you're not. No, you're not. The people who reported these things are. And now the state's being used as a weapon to fulfill that.
We're not using it as a weapon. My purpose here is just to give your side of the story so that you can advocate for yourself. Like I said, I don't judge and I don't discriminate.
And if you watched any of my videos, you would see that I don't judge and I don't discriminate. However, I do stand for the safeguarding of children. I've advocated for men to be whomever they want, whether it is feminine or not, and not have to feel pressure to be something that they're not. I advocate for women to go and be better than they are in everything. I advocate for patients with mental health disorders to overcome and work towards being better and doing the best that they can, and not letting the demons in their head, like I live with day in and day out, be their rulers. Just because somebody doesn't agree with me doesn't mean that they should be trying to silence me and bully me into a situation in an investigation like this when I didn't do anything wrong. My patients have never come to harm because of me.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have for you right now. If I have any additional questions, can I email them to you?
Sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I appreciate your time today. I'm sorry you had to do this.
It's after being abused like this and everything else that I get from the internet, this was rather discouraging because all I'm trying to do is safeguard children and make people aware of the limitations that nurses have, because I've seen a lot of people say that nurses should do things that are not in our scope and then trying to abuse us for that. And I don't think that that's fair, especially when we're trying to do the best we can while staying in our scope.
Well, I appreciate you answering the questions, and I will appreciate all of your comments that you made today.
Thank you.
So if you have any questions coming up or in the future, don't hesitate to call me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.